Can you hear me when it does? Are you good?
Good evening. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, liberty and justice for all. Good evening. This regular meeting of the Township Council is being held in accordance with the schedule of the meetings of the Township Council established and adopted by the Township Council, which schedule designated the time and date and place of this meeting. Adequate public notice of this meeting has been provided pursuant to the provisions of the Open Public Meetings Act. We're using an electronic amplifying recording device in order to obtain a clear and audible record. We request all those wishing to speak be recognized and state your name and address directly to the microphone. The recording device will be solely utilized by a Township Clerk's Office for the preparation of minutes and shall be the official record of the Township Council meetings. Ms. Bosford, can you read the, I'm sorry, roll call, please. I'm sorry.
Mr. Mignon?
Here.
Mrs. Albright Troxel? Here. Mrs. Grace Love? Here. Mr. Nash?
Here.
Mrs. Walters? Here. Mrs. Winters?
She is ill.
Mr. Mercado?
Present.
Mr. Carlemere?
Here.
Mr. Curtis?
Here.
Deputy Chief Manazzi?
Here.
Mr. McGill?
Here. We'll now open up the first public portion. This is for agenda items only. Anyone addressing council may speak one time. Once all those wishing to address council have had their turns, they may address council a second time only if it asks what was said earlier, not repeating earlier statements. Each speaker is entitled to 3 minutes, and there'll be a total of 15 minutes for the first public portion. Ms. Hendry?
Good evening, Dina Hendry, Summerdale.
Good evening.
The statement that you had read to open up the meeting, how the residents have adequate public notice for this meeting, it's kind of not true, being that the agenda was updated today on 12/9. The full agenda that was posted on 12/5 didn't have everything that today's agenda has.
So I had noticed this morning, Mr. Mignon brought it to my attention. I approved the agendas on Thursday afternoon, and they're posted. The ordinance was in the background information. It was put on the website that evening. It was brought to my attention that it was not listed on the front page of the agenda. So I contacted the clerk's office, and they posted that on there. Ms. Bosford, the background stuff was that was on the full posting on the website back from Thursday evening, correct?
Yes, so the three ordinances were posted. They just weren't on the first agenda page.
So all that information was there, it was not listed. We amended it and put it on the front, but the background information was there. So if someone goes through the 23 pages, they could see that.
But typically, it's always at the front of the page, correct?
Correct. So there, it was not listed there, but the ordinance was listed in what was posted.
Okay. As you said, you look through the agenda on Thursdays, correct? What safeguards, because this is not the first time that like a hiccup has happened. So what safeguards were in place from the previous time to ensure that we're not waiting until Monday to address it?
So what the clerk has done, Ms. Power, she has, when it's been posted, she's taken screenshots and it's posted there underneath when it has made it to this website, because she sends that to updates that evening, Thursday afternoon, and then she'll put the day that it's posted underneath it. So that's one of the safeguards that we put in place. All of council, they review it. It was brought to my attention, and we had it updated.
Okay, so on Thursday when it gets posted, does anybody like look at it and make sure that everything is in order how it's supposed to be, how we're kind of like trained that it should be?
The clerk.
Okay, so then therefore the clerk failed at doing what they were supposed to be doing?
No, it was an oversight on her part.
But how many oversights need to happen? I mean, for the.
But the ordinance was there. The ordinance was listed there. So people have an opportunity to review that. You just don't look at the first page or two. There's background information. So that that part was there. I'm open to suggestions of any safeguards that you want to suggest to council.
Okay, thank
Okay.
you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else? Ms. Smithman.
Hi, good evening, Council. My name is Shaughnessy Smithman. I live in the SDK Millbridge Gardens apartment complex on Millbrook Court, apartment 341. The agenda item R2412-380.
Refunding of taxes, yes.
Who is receiving the refund of the taxes?
There's a list of names there.
Like specific names? Specific people?
Yes, there are pages of folks that are on here listed. It's on there as well.
Are their family members entitled to their refund?
These are overpayments. So you said family members.
Like who, like, if one specific person is being given a refund of taxes, can you instead pay their niece or their nephew?
No, it goes to the tax.
Well, could you instead pay their grandchild?
No.
Could you instead pay?
No, you can answer, Mr. Carter. That's fine.
It's who's listed as the taxpayer. Who receives the bill.
That's the only person that can receive the
The only
refund?
person who can receive the check.
So you can't tax somebody else for somebody else's tax debt?
No.
So if somebody owed the taxes, you can't charge their child with that tax debt?
No, it's the only record that is on the tax bill. If it goes, whoever we send the tax bill to, whoever's listed through the assessment office is the owner of that property, and who's listed under the property taxes as being the owner of that property. That's who receives the tax bill. That's who receives the delinquent notices. That's who would be put in tax. That's who would request, and I believe in these cases, these instances, these individuals have requested because they overpaid to be refunded. And in order for them to be refunded, you need a resolution of the governing body. Otherwise, we cannot cut a check.
And you can't provide it to a family member, an
No.
extended family member, an uncle? So you can't tax somebody else for somebody else's tax debt, and you cannot refund a tax payment for somebody else's overpayment.
It goes to the person who is registered at that home to be taxed and is the owner of record.
So you can only be taxed if it's your tax debt. You cannot tax an uncle or a niece or a
No.
child.
No, thank you, Ms. Smithman, for your time.
Thank you.
Mr. Polidoro.
Good evening, Council. Ray Polidoro from the Historic Village of Ariel.
Good evening.
I'm not going to get into the details of how the agenda that's usually printed out has the ordinances first and how this came about. It seems to happen on evenings when we have some important or hot button issue that a glitch happens.
I disagree.
Well, you can disagree, but we, the people, know that when we look for it, whether it doesn't appear, and to have ordinances that would normally be in the agenda, be off the agenda and in the description area, it's just, it's getting tiresome to do that. If I may address ordinance 2424, and again, talk about a hot button item. So the chronological order of things that have gone on when you guys dissolved the MUA. You first said that you can do it better, you can save money. Coincidentally, you never, ever answered the question, and you never did save money. And you have just proven that today, where you're not saving money by dissolving the MUA. That being, the MUA ran a very efficient budget. I had asked Mr. Cardis, maybe he could seek some advice from them, because our budget's terrible every other year. And they managed to keep a $6 million emergency fund. And that fund was for specifically to take care of the sewage issues. Now, you have you have procured the funds that were there and squashed just about half of it, never having spent any money on sewer repairs, because you've already borrowed $300,000 to fix the sewer. Now you want to borrow another $600,000. You're still sitting on $2.8 million, if I'm not mistaken, of money that was specifically designed to take care of these things, to take care of the sewer, and you're borrowing again. You're sitting there with a wad of cash leaking out of your pocket, or at least the administration is right now, a wad of cash hanging out of your pocket, and you're going to swipe our credit card again. There's already money there. There's no reason to borrow more money to fix the sewer. You know, you're constantly proving why you should put the MUA back together again. You did this to save money. You didn't do it. Then you said you weren't going to sell it. That was a little disingenuous also. You said you're going to put it out for bid to find out what it's worth. That's called an appraisal. Well, that didn't go so well. Remington and Vernick rated our sewer pretty good. That's why maybe New Jersey American Water thought that that was worth $143 million. Yet, every time you talk about tax increases, borrowing, or anything to do with spending, this body votes unanimously. The administration hands it to you, and you just say, okay. Don't borrow more money when you have the money sitting that you took, again, I'm sorry, that you procured from the MUA that was for that purpose. I'll come back if there's time. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Poldo. Is there anyone else who would like to speak? Ms. Coyne.
Denise Coyne, Choose Landing.
Good evening.
Good evening. I believe the Open Public Meetings Act requires you to list the ordinances on the agenda. They were not listed on the agenda. They should have been listed on the agenda 48 hours in advance for proper public notice. They were not. So it's not reasonable to expect that the public was aware of these ordinances. If they weren't listed on the agenda, somebody that goes to the website, looks at the agenda, glances through it, okay. How would they know that those ordinances were in supporting documentation?
Because they go down, when they click on it, it goes down.
No,
There's
they would have
background.
to, they would have
There's
to
background
read.
information. Yes, absolutely. They would have to read. They would have to go down there. It was
Okay,
an
most people-
Ms. Coyne, I'm speaking. It was an oversight. It was an
Okay.
oversight, and we tried to correct it. There's nothing salacious. There was nothing, no conspiracy behind it. There's a second reading that takes place where people have ample time to speak on that second hearing, and you're speaking on that now. We
Okay.
apologize that there was an oversight.
But there's also an Open Public Meetings Act
Okay.
that requires it to be noticed on the agenda.
And background information was
48
provided.
hours in advance, it was not.
Mr.
And
Carver,
if it isn't, it should be posted yellow on the board to notify people. that
no, it's not
ordinance-
posted yellow. It's posted yellow if it's a walk-on. It's not a walk-on.
Okay, but
Background information is
if it's
provided.
not posted 48 hours in advance, isn't that considered a walk-on? It wasn't on the agenda.
It was on the agenda, the background information. It was not on the front page. It was an oversight. Mr. Carlmer, you're a legal counsel. Can you provide us some legal advice on this?
First, I'm hearing of that, but the comments that are made from the dais as well as the floor are telling me that the ordinance was actually contained in the body of what was, besides being posted, was on the site for everyone to look at, and I think that's proper. I don't think it's improper, and I think council, for introduction at first reading, which is not a public hearing, just the first reading is appropriate, regardless of what your comments are.
What do you mean by besides being posted? Posted where?
It's how the procedure that the clerk's office followed is appropriate from what I'm hearing. This is the first I'm hearing of it. But because it was included in the content of everything that was available for the public to read prior to the meeting is appropriate.
Even though it was not on the agenda, per the
Not on
Open
the
Public
agenda,
Meetings
first
Act,
page, but the contents were there.
but it was not on the agenda.
It was there, and this is only first reading. Which is
Okay.
not a public hearing on first reading.
I understand
Those
that.
comments that I've heard so far should be addressed at the public hearing.
Is that defined in the Open Public Meetings Act, that it only has to be the second hearing that needs to be noticed 48 hours in advance?
That's not what I'm saying.
Okay, so it should have been on the agenda, correct?
Thank you, Ms. Coyne, for your time. Does anyone else like to speak that's not spoken yet? Mr. Polidori, you'll be our last speaker.
Thank you once again, Ray Polidoro from Ariel. Mr. Carlemere, your response to Ms. Coyne was you don't think. Can you make that factual?
Well, my comment is understanding, this is the first I've heard that this was not.
Look closer to the microphone, please.
This is the first I've heard that this was not included in the beginning of what on the, I guess what you described as the agenda. But what I'm hearing though is that the ordinance was properly available to the public for a review. So that's what's important. What also goes to the merits here, that this is the first reading of an ordinance. It's not a public hearing. Comments such as you've made earlier are really addressed at a public hearing level. You can comment that it's there and what's it about, but the actual detailed public hearing is at the second reading. So I think everything is appropriate. For
So if I may dialogue with you.
Introduction on first reading.
So what my understanding of the agenda is these 2 pages. This is the agenda. Definitions and a breakdown of all things that appear on the agenda are those supplemental pages. This being the agenda, and if you would agree that this is the agenda, normally you'll put the ordinance in there, you put the resolutions in there, and then pages down, you'll put the explanation and or details of that. The fact, and these folks are correct, and I believe I am as well, this is the agenda and it did not appear on the agenda. Would you agree with that?
So that does not make it deficient.
I'm asking yes or no.
That does
If
not-
this is the agenda.
Does not make it deficient. If you're saying all you have to tell the public is what the agenda says and not the material, then you're not correct.
Okay, so all in all, it did not appear on the agenda. It appeared on the supplemental information content. All right, so with it being the second reading later on, you know, this council and this council president is very strict on time. And you get 3 minutes, you get 5 minutes, or you get unlimited time. When you're the public and you can get a second bite at the apple, you take every opportunity. That's what a public meeting is for. And sometimes, once in a while, you'll give us an explanation. It does explain that we're satisfactory with. Most times not. But I want to remind this council, when you vote on that ordinance to borrow, to swipe our credit card for another $600,000, when you're sitting on $2.8 million of money that was meant to fix our sewer system, and you're borrowing when the money's leaking out of Mr. Cardis's and the mayor's pockets, okay? The money's there. You're borrowing, and we pay for it. We pay for it. You pay for it too. But this is getting crazy because the people spoke. They want the, I don't know why you don't just put the MUA back. You've proven that you dropped the ball, and it costs money, and it's going to cost money. You threatened to raise taxes. You dropped the ball. You destroyed something that was good. I have to ask you, this is one you should vote no on. This is one you should vote no on. Don't take the money that you got and swipe our credit card. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. We'll close the first public portion. Proclamation.
Drive sober or get pulled over 2024 year-end holiday crackdown. Whereas approximately 1/3 of all fatal traffic crashes in the United States involve impaired drivers. And whereas during the December months of 2018 to 2022, 4,759 people lost their lives in alcohol-impaired driving crashes, including 1,062 fatalities in December 22 alone. And whereas impaired driving crashes cost the United States almost $44 billion a year. And whereas over the past 5 years, New Jersey's roadways have experienced 33,798 crashes, and 662 fatalities involving impaired drivers. And whereas an enforcement crackdown has been planned to combat impaired driving during the year-end holiday season. And whereas the holiday season is traditionally a time for social gatherings, many of which include alcohol. And whereas the state of New Jersey Division of Highway Traffic Safety has called upon law enforcement agencies throughout the state to participate in the Drive Sober or Get Pulled Over 2024 year-end holiday crackdown. And whereas this campaign will involve increased impaired driving enforcement from December 6, 2024 through January 1st, 2025. And whereas enhanced enforcement efforts and the reduction of impaired driving will help save lives on our roadways. Therefore, be it resolved that the Township of Gloucester declares support for the Drive Sober or Get Pulled Over 2024 year-end holiday crackdown from December 6, 2024 through January 1st, 2025.
Thank you. Bid report, 2024 Gabriel Davies Tavern Bathroom Demolition and East Wall Restoration. May I have a motion, please, to accept the bid report?
Make that motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
On the question, roll call, please.
Mr. Mignone?
Yes.
Mrs. Albright Troxel?
Yes.
Mrs. Grace Love?
Yes.
Mr. Nash?
Yes.
Mrs. Walters?
Yes.
Mr. Mercado?
Yes. Next is ordinance 0-24-23. This is the first reading. There'll be a hearing at the second reading. Ordinance amending Chapter 81-32A of the Code of the Township of Gloucester entitled Vehicles and Traffic of the Code of Township of Gloucester. This identifies designates a do not block the box for the following location on Blenheim Erial Road, County Road 706 at the entrance of Blackwood Elementary School, and Blenheim Erial Road, County Road 706 at the exit of Blackwood Elementary School. May I have a motion, please? May I have a second? On the question, roll call, please.
Mr. Mignone?
Yes.
Mrs. Albright Troxel?
Yes.
Mrs. Grace Love?
Yes.
Mr. Nash?
Yes.
Mrs. Walters?
Yes.
Mr. Mercado?
Yes, next is ordinance 0-24-24, a bond ordinance authorizing the completion of various improvements and acquisition of equipment for the sewer utility system in and for the Township of Gloucester, County of Camden, New Jersey, authorizing the sum of $585,000. Therefore, authorizing the issuance of general obligation bonds or bond anticipation notes of the Township of Gloucester, County of Camden, New Jersey, in the aggregate principal amount of up to $585,000, making certain determinations and covenants and authorizing certain related actions in connections with the foregoing. This is for generators at 2 pump stations, a sewer rehabilitation project at New Brooklyn Erial Road, upgrades to pump stations, and various equipment replacements, which includes channel grinders, replacement pumps, and a wet well wizard blower. All right, entertain a motion.
I'll make that motion.
Is there a second?
A second.
On the question, roll call, please.
Mr. Mignone?
Yes.
Mrs. Albright Troxel?
Yes.
Mrs. Grace Love?
I have a question real quick, because I live off that road, should I have seen from that?
Mr. Carter,
I'm sorry. I was
Just had a question. Ms. Grace Love says she lives off a particular road. Should she abstain from?
You can abstain.
I'll see.
Mr. Nash?
Yes.
Mrs. Walters?
Yes.
Mr. Mercado?
Yes. The next one. Okay. I'm sorry. Ordinance 0-24-25, bond ordinance authorizing the completion of various park improvements in the Township of Gloucester, County of Camden, New Jersey, appropriating the sum of $948,630. Therefore, authorizing the issuance of general obligation bonds or bond anticipation notes of the Township of Gloucester, County of Camden, New Jersey, in the aggregate principal amount of up to $948,630, making certain determinations and covenants and authorizing certain related actions in connections with the foregoing. This is for the completion of various park improvements. This is for the Taylor Avenue Playground. In my discussion with Mr. Cardis, we are required to have a bond ordinance in place, but that does not necessarily mean we are going out for a bond for this amount. Is that correct, Mr. Cardis?
Yes, even though it is a 100% grant for the 948,000, You still need a bond ordinance, you're required by the local finance board to have a bond ordinance. And Green Acres also wants you.
I entertain a motion.
I'll make that motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
On the question, roll call, please.
Mr. Mignon?
Yes.
Mrs. Albright Troxel?
Yes.
Mrs. Grace Love?
Yes.
Mr. Nash?
Yes.
Mrs. Walters?
Yes.
Mr. Mercado?
Yes. Next is our consent agenda. There is an item on Resolution 380 where there was a duplicate on a individual authorized refunding of taxes. Couture Pack is listed twice on this resolution. So I need to amend Resolution 380. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
On the question? Says roll call to amend 380, Resolution 380.
Mr. Mignon?
Yes.
Mrs. Albright Troxel? Mrs. Grace Love?
Yes.
Mr. Nash?
Yes to amend.
Mrs. Walters?
Yes, to amend.
Mr. Mercado?
Yes to amend. Now we have the consent agenda as amended. May I have a motion?
I'll make that motion.
Is there a second? On the question, roll call, please.
Mr. Mignon?
Yes.
Mrs. Albright Troxel?
Yes.
Mrs. Grace Love?
Yes.
Mr. Nash?
Yes.
Mrs. Walters?
So yes, except for, payment of bills, yes, to that, except for two of them. I abstained from 24-06718 in the amount of $50 and 24-07074 in the amount of $800.
If you can provide that to the clerk, that'll make it easier for her as she writes this down. Thank you.
Mr. Mercado?
Yes to all. Regular agenda, resolution to make budget transfers between appropriations in the calendar year 2024 general fund budget. May I have a motion?
Make that motion.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
On the question, roll call, please.
Mr. Mignon?
Yes.
Mrs. Albright Troxel?
Yes.
Mrs. Grace Love? Mr. Nash?
Yes.
Mrs. Walters?
Yes.
Mr. Mercado?
Yes. Next is our GTE Gov access. We have 3 emails. The first is from Terry Fretz at 85 Cherry Circle. In light of the fact that in recent months, council has made everyone aware of the large debt Gloucester Township currently owes, I would like to ask about item 0-24-24 on the agenda. Why do we need to borrow $585,000 for the sewer utility? Council stated when they took over the GTMUA, it would save us money. They also acquired $6 million at that time. Is all that money gone? And if so, is there an items list of where it went? Please explain why we need an additional $585,000 to our debt when dissolving the GTMUA was done to save us money. The township still needs to make repairs and keep up-to-date maintenance on the sewer lines and the pump stations. The breakdown of that $585,000, $100,000 is being used for 2 generators at 2 pump stations, $300,000 for sewer rehabilitation, those for sewer improvements on New Brooklyn Erial Road. There are $25,000 dedicated to various upgrades to pump stations, miscellaneous repairs to pump stations, and $160,000 for various equipment replacement. Those examples are channel grinders, replacement pumps, and a wet well wizard blower. The $6 million is not gone. We still have $2,613,404.76 remaining. This is how we use the money, the balance of the distribution. As of the dissolution of June 30th of 2023, there was $5,264,404.76. $300,000 was used in that budget for that particular year in 2023. The balance as of 12/31/2023, that remaining money was $4,964,404.76. $2,351,000 was used in the 2024 budget. So the sewer surplus balance remains at $2,613,404.76. Those figures were provided by our Chief Financial Officer today. Next is from Gerard Dunleavy, 82 Highland Avenue in Sicklerville. This was more of an observation than it is a question, but hopefully it helps solve issues with trash being strewn all over township roads. It was observed this day, albeit a windy day, that the recycle pickups seems to cause more issues with trash not being collected than are actually collected. My brother was out and about and observed on several occasions trash being strewn about on this windy day and not being picked up. I get that automation is supposed to be a good thing, save money over manpower, but not at the expense of the environment that we're all trying to preserve. For once, can someone please show care for what they are doing and pick up trash? The issue stems from never leaving the vehicle and just pushing a button. In this case, I believe that the automation has caused a laziness, and it results in a township that is more junked up than ever. On these windy days, postpone the pickup or simply be more attentive to your job. Trying to save a buck is not helping anyone. Thank you all for listening. The township is unable to change the schedule routes for collection of recyclables. We have a Clean Communities program. That personnel is funded through a state grant to clean litter throughout the township. We will continue to schedule continue the schedule that's established and dispatch Clean Community employees throughout the township. And our last EGOV is from Robert Victor of 4 Laurelwood Court. How long is the information from police license plate readers kept? Approximately how many plates with location information are recorded daily? Is this information ever purged? Do you feel it should be ever purged or kept forever? Who has access to this information? Is the information ever sold to a third party? I realize that some of this information has been used to solve crimes, but feel that citizens' privacy should also be considered. The all written or electronic records of the ALPR activity, the license plate readers, and access to that data are maintained by the Gloucester Township Police Department for a period of 3 years. How many plates with location information recorded daily? That number varies depending on how many are in service at any given time, which can change daily. After 3 years, the retention period is met. The information is purged from the system, from the police department. Do you feel it should ever be purged or kept forever? The Gloucester Township Police Department is in compliance with New Jersey Attorney General Law Enforcement Directive 2022-12, which regulates automated license plate readers for law enforcement in the state of New Jersey. Who has access to this information? A sworn or civilian employee of the Gloucester Township Police Department who has been authorized by the chief of the Gloucester Township Police Department or his or her designee for a law enforcement purpose, and no, this information is not sold to a third party. That concludes our EGOVs. We'll now go to our second public portion. This portion is for 30 minutes. Each speaker is entitled to 5 minutes. Once a speaker has spoken, they may speak again. If only it adds to what they've had, what they've said earlier, they can speak a second time once everyone who has raised their hand has spoken. Anyone like to speak during the first public portion? Ms. Smithman, followed by Ms. Coyne.
Hi, good evening, council.
Good evening again.
My name is Shaughnessy Smithman. I live in the SDK Millbridge Gardens apartment complex on Millbrook Court, apartment 341. May I ask, when is the next meeting? December, typically it's not on the 4th Monday for the month of December. Typically it's moved.
In years past, we had moved it usually the last week in December. This year is December 23rd. So we'll be meeting 2 days before Christmas and Hanukkah.
Right, so it will be on the 4th
Fourth,
Monday?
yes.
On the correct
Yes.
regular scheduled day? All right, thank you. Forgive me, I was not in this council room when the meeting first began. I had to go and speak to an authority and then come back to the meeting, and I missed the beginning portion. Who was
You
the
okay?
clerk? Who was the clerk today?
Excuse me?
Who was the clerk today?
Ms. Bosworth.
And who is standing in for security?
For security?
It says Chief Harkins on here, but that person does not appear to be Chief Harkins.
Oh, that is Deputy Chief Manazzi.
Okay,
He has sat in previous meetings.
I have seen that before, but I was unaware of the actual name of the person. Thank you. May I ask, the Christmas donations. I don't want to get upset, so I'm just going to ask, is Gloucester Township, New Jersey accepting donations for Christmas this year?
Yes.
Okay. I had tried to donate 2 gift cards and some cash to the Gloucester Township, New Jersey police watch desk area where there was a drop box, but the box did not announce what the name of the donation drive was called, like what it was referred to, the title of the donation drive. They did accept 2 gift cards last year. I was told this year they do not accept gift cards. Do they?
I am not aware of what they accept. I can't answer that.
It's the mayor's.
No. You said you went to the watch desk of the police department.
It is sponsored by the mayor. The mayor is the one.
No, that you said you went to the police watch desk.
That's
If you were
correct.
going to donate something to the mayor's toy drive, you would go to the mayor's office out here in the
It's the
hallway.
same toy drive. It's for convenience purposes.
It is not the same toy drive.
Well, then you should make the police department aware that it is not the same toy drive, because there was a box in that area. So fortunately, they were very educated enough to not take a donation for somebody else's Christmas toy drive. What is it called? Donation box?
Were you able to donate what you wanted to donate?
I was not.
Okay.
That's why I'm
Do you
asking.
still want to donate those items?
Let's see. I have never been married. I don't own any property. I've never sued anyone. I've never collected workers' compensation. I haven't owned a car in close to 10 years. My father, God rest his soul, Harry Cortland Smithman, did not have a last will and testament. I've never sued anybody in a court of law. There are many things that have been going on that I have been trying to get through to this township, not receiving assistance with that in any way. What is your question for me?
My question to you is those items you want to donate, would you like to still donate them? If you would like to donate them, I'll help facilitate that transaction for
The
you.
gift cards
Yes.
in cash?
The cash, no, we're not going to accept cash. You can use the cash, maybe purchase something.
No, see, I don't drive right now because I don't have a vehicle. I have not for close to 10 years. I cannot get the toy to the box. I would have to walk it. And not only is it,
Shop right, you get toys
Dollar
anywhere.
General.
you want me to walk 2 miles?
Where do you get?
No, it would be in between the Dollar General and ShopRite, in between going home.
Is a gift card acceptable?
Yes.
That's very fine.
That's fine. Thank you very much for your generosity.
I have to take a cash out of that.
We're not accepting the cash,
I know, but you know, I'm just gonna-
but no, you take the cash out, okay? I'm not taking the cash out, okay? No, you can open that.
Use the table.
Shaughnessy, why don't you use the table,
Table.
okay? We're gonna go to our next speaker, okay? Ms. Coyne? Jim, can you help Ms. Smithman and also here, pass. Mr. Nash will help you. He's gonna be neighborly. Okay?
Yeah, put it right here.
Mr. Nash will help you over there. Yes, Ms. Coyne?
Denise Coyne, she was landing.
Sorry.
The $2.6 million that you say is left in the sewer quote surplus, is that the money that the local finance board said you had to hold for the bond?
Scars?
It probably could be considered today, yeah.
Okay, so that's money that you cannot spend according,
I don't know that to be. I know that to be when they heard it, the case, which was in 23. It's now we're going into 25. I don't know if that was indefinitely that they said that had to be held.
Okay, but it was money that the local finance board initially said had to be held, correct?
I believe that's what they were referring to.
Okay. So it was a separate pile of money other than the money that was rolled into the budget.
I believe that's what they were referring to.
Okay. All right, and then for ordinance 2424, the money that is being spent through the general obligation bond, the categories listed on the ordinance are very general and vague. And I know President Mercado just gave some additional detail for those categories. But what I'm wondering is the local finance board, the Remington and Vernick report identified clear priorities for capital improvements to the sewer system. And I don't believe anything that was mentioned was on that priority list. Are you aware if anything on that list is in this $585,000?
No, I'll give you an example. That $300,000 is for a neighborhood community where they have an issue with their septic, and that is to tie that particular community neighborhood into our sewer system.
But was that?
That was not something that was anticipated in May of 23 or March of 23 when that application was made.
Okay, but I'm asking, is any of that money that you anticipate spending for any of these items that were listed as priorities on the Remington and Vernick report?
I don't have that report in front of me. Mr. Curtis?
Well, I couldn't tell you.
Okay, well, it was a replacement of pumps at Fay Ann and Stephen Drive. I don't believe that was mentioned. Installation of an emergency generator at Esham Pumping Station. I don't believe that was mentioned. Replacement of the Glen Oaks Pump Station. I don't believe that was mentioned. Relocation of the Summerdale Road Pump Station. That wasn't mentioned. Replacement of the Ore Road Force Main. That wasn't mentioned. So I'm wondering if there's a plan to spend any money on the items that were identified as priorities for spending capital improvements on.
I would have to defer to Mr. Carson, the sewer utility director.
Yeah, right now, we do not have a plan. No.
Do you plan on having a plan at some point?
At some point, we will.
Do you know when that'll be?
I do not.
Okay, don't you think that's important to have?
To have a plan to spend money or to borrow money, is that what you're asking me?
To have a plan to properly maintain our sewer system per the Remington and Vernick.
Politics and borrowing money.
That's what I'm talking about, to have a plan for priorities.
I'm sure we will be doing capital. Are you aware that the MUA that you praised, that before it was dissolved, that they introduced a budget? And do you know how much money they put in there for capital improvements? Do you have any idea?
How would I know that?
19 million. 19 million is what they were gonna put in there. And none of it was coming from that $6 million that you keep referring to. That's in writing. That's their budget that was proposed for 23.
Okay, I didn't refer to any $6 million just now. I'm referring
It
to
has been referred to.
priorities.
No, it has been referred to.
Okay, but
How much is the balance, 2.6, that you have to keep for capital? And that's not what the plan was. The plan was not to take the 6 million to use for the 19 million of capital improvements that they were going to do.
the 2.6 million was for a bond. That's what it was for.
The 2.6 is surplus.
But it was set aside by the local finance board to pay a bond, correct?
No, I don't believe that is still in existence.
Okay, but it was set aside by the local finance
They set
board to
aside $3
pay a
million.
bond.
They set aside $3 million. They said you can spend up to as much as you want as long as you leave $3 million in surplus.
Yeah, I believe it was 2.8 is what they said, $2.8 million.
Thank you, Ms. Coyne. If there's more time, you can come back up again. Yes, Ms. Hendry. Could you please take a seat? He'll speak to you. Can you please take a seat?
I'll just stay here, because I might forget.
Yes, Ms. Hendry.
Dina Hendry, Summerdale. So when the MUA was dissolved, it was stated that we were going to save money. How much money has the taxpayers or the township have saved year to date?
I don't have that information on me. Mr. Carter, is that something that you would have?
I do not.
Like a ballpark, like, I mean, $10 million, like how much? Like, I mean, you deal with numbers every day, so you should have some sort of idea, because every month you have to reconcile the accounts. Like, what is the savings to the taxpayers and this township?
I'm not gonna throw a number out there because I don't have a number. I just told you.
Well, the last time that you reconciled everything, when, you have meetings, right? And, a checkup and say, okay, as of today, May of 24, we have saved X.
They have not, the CFO has not even completed the annual financial statements unaudited for the general fund or for the utility fund yet. That's not due until mid-February.
Okay, so when we dissolved it in May of 23, so May of 23 to December of 23, how much did that save us? Like, it was stated that we were going to, reduce redundancies and not have, let's say, 2 payroll people or 2 of the same things. Like, what have we done to save the township money?
Certain things were eliminated. We no longer pay a board. There is no authority board being paid. There are professionals that have been consolidated. I don't have a list. I'm just talking extemporaneously.
Okay, so with the MUA and the surplus that it ran on the budget, wouldn't it have been prudent to keep that lot sum of money to have those repairs, especially if we knew, like we as a township, right? If we knew that $19 million would have been needed for capital improvements, like instead of spending it, we should have saved it. Maybe that's the reason why there was a surplus, because they knew that there was going to be $19 million worth of repairs.
I don't agree. They're not a bank. I'm not a bank and they're not a bank.
And I'm going to add to that, that $6 million was not going to be touched. They were going to go out for a bond on it.
Correct.
That $6 million was just accumulating.
But it was an emergency, right? Like if it was needed,
Ms. Hendry wasn't being used.
it wasn't being used, but it was accumulating, for a rainy day per se.
So it shouldn't go back to the taxpayers or the ratepayers. Is that what you're saying? That
What?
money should sit. We should accumulate funds in a bank. We should be the bank of the public. And we should keep that money for the public because it's better that we keep it. Don't give it back to the taxpayers. Don't give it to the ratepayers, correct? Is that what you're saying?
I would have, yeah, if I was you, I would have saved it, because
I don't agree with you at all. You have surplus, you should apply it. You should give it back to the taxpayers.
but now we have to borrow money instead of saying, okay, we have it.
So you should sit with all that money.
Yes.
Okay. That's a good philosophy.
But now we have to borrow it. That's the thing. And then also, if you could get me the savings, like how are we saving by that dissolvement? Like, what is the figure? Like, we've asked and asked multiple times and nobody knows. So why did we do it? Are we having a staring contest?
You keep asking the same question.
Because I haven't gotten an answer.
That's right, you did get an answer. I don't have an analysis of what the savings are. I will tell you that it was approved unanimously by the local finance board. There were people that are in this room right now today that were on that meeting when the local finance board approved it. There was also a resolution of the GTMUA body, the authority to dissolve. That was also unanimous.
So we dissolved it not to save money. What was the purpose to dissolve it?
To save money.
Okay, so what's the money being saved?
We continue to save money. It's an
But what's the
ongoing
amount? Like, how much have we
process.
saved?
There's no definitive point in time where we stop and have taken account of what have we saved up to this very point. We still save money every day because we're
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Polidoro?
I'm sorry to interrupt. He didn't tell me what, I didn't write down who that drive is for, who the organization is called.
Ms. Smith, we'll address that at the end of the meeting, when the meeting's closed.
Oh, no, well.
No, you're disrupting our meeting. Ms. Smithman, you're interrupting our meeting. Just please take a seat in the front seat. And Ms. Smithman, I'm gonna ask you, please take a seat.
It's $800.
No one gave you $800. Ms. Smithman, please take a seat. Ms. Smithman, take a seat. Ms. Smithman, please take a seat. Mr. Polidoro.
Hello again, Council Ray Polidoro from Ariel. The more I listen to the conversation, the more redundant this gets. The same questions keep getting asked because no answers are given. All along, everyone wanted to know what savings. Why did you destroy a fully functional, well-working MUA? An MUA that was working with a budget a whole hell of a lot better than this township was working with to be able to put money away. Being that you can't answer the question, and we're going to keep on asking, and the reason to keep on asking is if you can't answer the reason that you stated that you were dissolving the MUA, you give the appearance of a money grab. And that's what it looks like. The money grab appears also to look like it was the prelude to selling the MUA, which you also said you weren't going to do. Now, I'm not quite sure what the difference is between someone being disingenuous and lying, but I gotta believe there's a thin line between the two. Not stating that you did either or any of the above, but it sure as hell does look like it. So all the while, I'm sorry. In any event, I'm going to ask a very simple question. And again, going on the fact that you folks said that you were going to put this to the people after you destroyed the MUA, after you did everything that you did, you left it into the hands of the people and you let them vote. And they voted. Approximately 80% to 20%, you got crushed. That being said, and what the people have spoken on, what's to prevent you from putting the MUA back together again, to putting a well-oiled machine? Whether they were going to borrow money or not, they borrowed money in the past. They've not raised our rates all that much. And if I'm being honest, you guys really stunk trying to operate what they did really, really well. It's terrible. Fumble after fumble after fumble, and the people spoke. So I'm going to ask you, what's to prevent you? The buildings are still there. If I'm not mistaken, a partial of land, a building or something is being rented. What's to prevent you from putting the MUA back in order, putting the people back to work, giving the people the $46 a quarter or thereabouts? Did you create a situation? Did you can't put the MUA back? I'll ask you that simple yes or no.
I want to address some of the comments you made, Mr. Polidoro.
Sure.
Because a lot of it is opinion and not factual. Maybe you should provide a disclaimer before you speak. No one destroyed the MUA. You said put the people back to work. No one lost their jobs. It is still functioning. I didn't know you had this affinity for the MUA up until a year ago, because I know you used to cast aspersions upon that MUA. Didn't you? It was a patronage pit. You had issues.
No, I actually asked questions.
No,
You asked me a question.
No.
You said, did
Yes, didn't you?
No, I was looking at a fund that
Okay.
people were abusing.
So can you tell me what people lost? Who has to go back to work, Mr. Polidoro?
Well, they're working at a
The
different.
vendors? You want to put the vendors back to work?
No, I'm
You want
talking
to put
about.
professionals back to work?
I'm talking about putting back together a well-oiled machine.
It is still operating.
But you're pissing all the
Services are
money
still
away.
being provided.
But you're pissing all the money away.
So you're okay with $6 million just sitting there as a bank? Because that's
They
what it
were
was.
doing a good job with it. They didn't raise our rates. $6 million sitting,
Such a
and our
good-
rates stayed the same. Mr. Carnes has still yet to answer the question. What savings?
Nothing has been destroyed. Nothing has been crushed. No one has lost their job
Then why did you put it up for bid?
because to save money. Oh,
But
bid?
you can't answer the question.
I answered your question. You don't like my
Save
response.
what money?
Well, we dissolved it to save money, economies of scale, okay? That's why we did it. And then we put it out to bid for the public, and the public responded. And as you say, we got crushed. So we know, we had the feeling that you get when you get crushed. So I answered your questions, I responded.
You know, the people that voted on this were not voting party. And yet you want to create a little political turmoil. It has nothing to do with that.
What turmoil am I creating?
You should
You're
have
saying
never
we got-
dissolved the MUA. You should have left it alone. You dropped the ball, you fumbled,
You're saying money is dripping out of Mr. Curtis's pocket and the
Well,
mayor.
that's usually the case.
It's not. Thank you very much, Ray. Have a great holiday.
You too.
What was the situation in 2007? Because I was.
Speaking to the
there with
microphone,
Cindy
please.
Rao Hatton.
It's hard to hear
Cindy
you.
Rao Hatton, that you were with Cindy Rao Hatton because she was your candidate and she was having meetings
Okay.
with members of.
You really want to go down that road?
You know
You really want to go down that
Okay.
road?
it. You
Let me tell you something. It didn't have anything to do with money.
Okay.
Yeah.
Your time is up.
You
Thank you
can't
very
handle
much.
money.
Can't remember.
You
what
can't
happened.
handle money the way that the
Yeah,
Mr.
MUA
Powell.
did. You're not that good.
Curtis,
You're not as good as them. You're not that good.
please take a seat.
Check in with them again. They'll
Please
teach you.
take a seat.
Please.
Please take a seat. No, grab his, no, please take a seat as well. No, I have not called you up to the
The
mic.
name
Ms.
of the toy
Smithman,
drive, my
Ms.
name is
Smithman,
Shaughnessy Smith.
we're
The
not
name of the toy drive
responding.
is called Mayor's Toy Drive. If you could please have Councilman Nash bring those gift cards down so I can identify that toy drive on those cards. You just had me hand over $800. I just want to write down that it goes to the proper toy donation for Christmas. Could you please have Councilman Nash bring them back so I can write on them where they're going? Officer Reddick said Toys for Tots, but
No, I
apparently
did not.
he
It's
said.
on your camera, by the way. I showed you the sign right in the office. Here's your gift cards. You can hand them at the mayor's office. Have a good evening. We're not taking them back. Take
Ms.
them with you.
Smithman, I'm gonna ask you to leave our meeting here. Please leave our meeting. We're not gonna continue. Ms. Smithman, I'm gonna ask you,
You see, they're not identified.
Mr. Melendez, can you escort Ms. Smithman out of our,
Let's go.
So you're not accepting.
No, you're not. Just grab your stuff and go. Get your cards. You can turn them into the mayor's office on your own time. We are not taking them gift cards from you tonight. We identified the toy drive for you. I differentiated between the police department and the mayor for you, and you're being disruptive. Please collect your belongings and follow us out of the building. Thank you. Let's go. Let's go. Grab your stuff, let's go.
First acknowledge we're not accepting these gift
We are
cards.
not accepting these gift cards. Just grab your things and let's go.
Loretta, what did you do with the $1,000?
You're insufferable. Have a nice evening.
What did you
Let's
do
go.
with the two $500 gift cards that were donated last year?
You didn't give them to me. I don't know. Grab your stuff and let's go.
Interrupting this meeting. Let's go.
There's no way this happened. No part of the community relations that accepted two gift cards from me, and I was told by your police officers that you do not accept gift cards.
We don't. The police
Yes,
department
you
does
several
not,
times
the
accepted
police
the
department does not
2000.
accept cash or gift cards. No, they do not.
Yeah.
Grab your things and let's go.
You're accepting them
Let's go, man.
last year.
we're gonna take a 5-minute recess.
I answered your questions. Have a good evening. I did not receive any gift cards last year. They were not placed in my possession.
Beautiful.
Might take a video.
Absolutely. I don't need anything from you, but for you to leave, let's go.
Yeah. But you want to because of identification in the.
All right.
Excuse me? My first meeting that someone has had to be escorted out because of lack of decorum for the rest of the people in this room. My first time. Shocking.
That's a long time.
It's a long time, you're right? Oh, my video that said the guys look good, they're protected. Because it went from 400 to 800 to 1,000, did you hear that? Somebody told me meetings would be like this.
Yeah, okay. Madam Clerk, have the roll call again.
Mr. Mignon?
Here.
Mrs. Albright Troxel?
Here.
Mrs. Grace Love?
Here.
Mr. Nash?
Here.
Mrs. Walters?
Here.
Mr. Mercado?
Present.
Mr. Parlier?
Here.
Mr. Cardis?
Here.
Deputy Chief Manazzi?
Here.
Mr. McGill?
Here.
For those who are in the audience and those that are watching at home, I apologize for that disruption. We have a rule of order and proper decorum in our meetings, and unfortunately, we have an individual sometimes that don't adhere to that. So I do apologize to those in the audience and those that are watching from home. We'll still continue our public portion. I believe we have another 10 minutes left in our public portion. Anyone wish to speak that has not spoken yet? Ms. Coyne?
Denise Coyne, Choose Landing. I would like to quote President Mercado when he said that the sewer issue was not a red issue, and it wasn't a blue issue, it's a green issue.
Yeah.
Except tonight, I think once again, it is made a political issue.
How
It
so?
shouldn't, because Tom Carter sat there and yelled at Ray Polidoro over politics. That was 100% political.
You didn't hear Ray yell?
Is he a public servant? Is he a public servant or is he a member of the public?
I stated it back.
Okay, are you public servants? Are you members of council and the administrative? Talk about decorum. You guys are supposed to be professionals. We're public members. You are supposed to be council and the administration. Decorum, was that decorum? I don't appreciate coming to a meeting and having to sit here and listen to council members scream at the public.
Who is screaming at the public?
Tom Cardis.
Tom Cardis is not a council member.
He's
not-
part of the
he's not-
administration.
No shouting out from the audience, please. I just talked about decorum.
Are you raising your voice right now to me?
No, I'm not talking to you. I'm talking to the individuals in the back. Mr. Cardis is not an elected official. You know
Part of
that.
the administration.
He is not an elected official.
He's part of
No
the
coun-
administration.
You're cutting me off. No council member here yelled at anyone today.
I
okay.
said the administration and council.
No, you started off as council, but go ahead.
I also said the administration. He is part of the administration. He is a professional. He is a public servant. There's decorum on you guys' side. He's sitting there smirking at me right now. That's not decorum.
So,
And as far as the sewer borrowing money, the MUA, yes, they borrowed money. I'm sure they had to operate. They borrowed money. They also charged the public $46 a quarter. And they ran an efficient MUA.
When's the last time they borrowed $19 million?
I'm speaking, please don't interrupt me. Decorum, once again.
You're speaking of me, I can respond.
I wasn't done speaking. You interrupted me.
Mr. Cardis, Mr.
You
Cardis,
interrupted me.
Mr. Cardis and Ms. Coyne, please speak your 5 minutes
I'm trying.
and we'll respond
I'm
at the end if we
trying.
want to.
Please instruct
okay?
him not to interrupt me so I could finish. That would be awesome.
Yes, Mr. Cardis, please let us.
You know what? I'm done.
Thank you. Thank you. The public portion is public comment. And there's been a practice for many years that council responds to questions. It's not a Q&A, it's public comment. I'm not talking to you, I'm talking in general. You go to any other board throughout the township and it is a public comment. It's not a public Q&A. This council responds and answers questions. If questions are going to be asked, we're going to try to respond to those questions. But if someone just wants to talk for 5 minutes, then they can talk for 5 minutes. Ms. Hendry, you'll be our last speaker.
Tina Hendry Summerdale. To confirm, council is elected, correct?
Yes.
Excellent. And positions like our township solicitor and our business administrator, they are on the township payroll, correct?
They are appointed and they serve at the pleasure of the mayor.
Okay. But they are paid through township funds.
That is correct.
Okay. I think I will speak for myself because I don't like anybody speaking for me, so I'm not going to do that for anybody else. But I think for myself, when you have somebody who is serving the people with public funds, taking pot shots and being smug and trying to have a staring contest and yelling to basically their employer, right? Because they're employed by township dollars. That is where decorum is lost. All respect is lost when people who are employed by the township, by the people, yell at the people for simply asking questions that have been asked many times and we have not gotten an answer. So the fault is on Mr. Cardis because he should have not behaved that way. So who does Mr. Cardis answer to? Because he doesn't answer to the people because we can't vote him in or out.
He serves at the pleasure of the mayor. He is appointed by the mayor.
Okay, so will the mayor review this council meeting to see of his outbursts and unprofessionalism?
I don't know if the mayor will review this meeting.
Okay. Will you tell the mayor about the unprofessionalism that took place?
There are comments made on an almost weekly basis to Mr. Cardis. And Mr. Cardis, this is my take on it, responds to what he's receiving. So if someone is saying to him that cash is dripping out of his pocket, do you think Mr. Cardis is going to wish them a Merry Christmas and Happy Holidays and send them a Christmas card?
No, but
no. If there's he's responding to what is being said to him at times. There are times that Mr. Cardis, I ask Mr. Cardis, let's stop and let's move on from it. But I think there's a lot of people in this room, including yourself, that have made statements in this body here that have not been respectful.
You're probably right.
And we still have people shouting out from the back. I don't understand.
You're absolutely right.
Absolutely right.
But here is the thing. I am not an employee of the township.
No, you're not.
Okay, where he is an employee of the township. He is a reflection of the township. And to behave that way is not a good look. Whether it's myself or others who might make a statement that is considered disrespectful, it's out of frustration. It's out of the fact that we are desperately wanting transparency and asking questions and we don't get the answers. I mean, how hard is it to say we have saved X amount of money? How hard is it to just answer a question? But to be attacked if you can't take it, you shouldn't be up there. It is a big responsibility that all of you sit up there. It is. I'm not going to doubt that. But here's the thing. We get attacked and it's a continuous thing. So of course there is some sort of animosity, but it starts with you guys. If you want to change how you are perceived, you have to do it. You have to do it because
When
it
has
is,
anybody attacked you from up here?
are you,
No, I'm serious. When has anybody up here attacked you?
I have been told that, oh, I know where you live. Nice people used to live there.
They did. Nice people used to live there.
But why would you say that?
But there were some good people that lived there. They were involved in their communities. They were good people.
But that is not,
You
but
wanted to take it another way, and I'd let you continue to say that. But
okay.
there was good people who
I have
lived there.
18 seconds. What about the letter that was written about me? Through council.
Through council. Council didn't write that letter. The council said, let's write a letter about Dina Hendry. No, there were individuals. You ran in the campaign, right? You ran for election.
Yes,
Okay, and a letter came out. You didn't
by two council
And
members.
you didn't like that letter.
Because it was written by two council members
Okay.
as council.
But this body of council, we didn't send that out.
She did.
Okay,
She did.
she asserted her First Amendment rights, didn't she?
As a councilwoman, you're supposed to be impartial.
Okay. See,
You have told me that you don't represent me. You said
No, no.
I represent everybody but you.
No.
That's what you
Look
said.
back at it. See, I'm gonna use a term that people used to say about our meetings, that we're gaslighting people. No.
No, you
I
are.
said,
No,
I
I'm
don't
done.
just-
My time is up.
I don't just represent you. I represent everyone. Thank you very much. We'll close the second public portion. Pulling the directors.
Mr. Carlemere?
Nothing to report.
Mr. Cardis?
May I just speak for a second?
Yeah, Mr. Cardis, absolutely.
I'm speaking and I'm not yelling at anyone. What my point was, Mr. Pallador, was that I served under Cindy Rao Hatton for 3.5 years. From 2006, July 1st, to when her term expired, which I believe was
2009.
2009. And during that time, she held several meetings with members of one particular of the two major water companies with the goal of disbanding the MUA, the one that you love so much and want to put back together. And she was not successful, but she did meet. And you knew she met because she had conversations with you too. And I was part of some of those meetings. So don't tell me it didn't happen. And I'm not yelling, but I'm telling you the facts. So I guess it wasn't good at that time, and it's not good now. That's all I have.
Deputy Chief Manazzi?
We'd just like to update council, a resident in the area of Old Black Horse Pike and Taylor Avenue had some traffic concerns. County has gone and said it's acceptable to look further into lowering the speed limit. So we're going through the process of getting that done, as well as some other potential traffic calming measures in that area. And then secondly, we just want to invite council, remind you, if you were not made aware, this Saturday is our annual Shop with a Cop, which is a fantastic, very heartwarming event we cherish. We begin to show up at 7, the kids show up between 8 and 30. If you don't have anything to do, you're more welcome.
Where's that?
Target?
Our target school on Cross Street Road. Thank you.
Mr. McGill?
Nothing to add, thank you.
Yeah, okay.
Something to add?
Okay, now we go through all council.
I'm so sorry. Mr. Minio?
Thank you for coming. Have a great night, great week.
Mrs. Albright Troxel?
Yes, I want to thank the police for taking control of a situation that was, in the history of me attending meetings of all sorts, I've never seen anything like it or heard anything like it. And I just want to thank you very much for your decorum, which was spot on. I think respect goes both ways. They were very respectful to the woman, even though she wasn't very respectful to anyone in this room. And it's nice to see respect going from council, from the police to the residents. And the residents should give respect back. And I really appreciate what you've done, so thank you.
Mrs. Grace Lowe?
Yes, I agree. I wasn't here, but I do know that our police department is, the finest around and always taking account of the person first, because that was not her usual personality. So I think it's important that, you know, you always understand that and treat her with care, and we appreciate you always. Everyone have a great night and see you at the next meeting.
Mr. Nash?
Have a good night.
Mrs. Walters?
Everyone, thank you for coming out and have a good night.
Mr. Mercado?
I want to thank everyone for coming out this evening. This Saturday is the Christmas Village, or this weekend, with the tree lighting taking place Saturday evening, I believe at 6:30. Is the tree lighting? 6:30 and tree lighting. And there'll be a special visitor on top of the fire truck. Yes, Santa. So if you guys can, if anyone can make it, those are in the audience as well. Each year, so January 2nd is our reorganization for the township. At that time, during that time period, we talk about the order of business for our council meetings, and if there's any changes we want to make during that. I think in light of today's meeting, there needs to be some changes in how our meetings are run and how the agenda flows. So those changes, they may be coming sooner than later as we enter into the new year. With that, I entertain a motion to adjourn. Is there a second? All those in favor? Have a great evening, everyone.